I arrived at Mira's house just after 6, a week before Christmas. The street was lit with blinking lights, warm and steady, but her house was the only one sitting in darkness. No porch light, no hallway glow, not even the soft lamp she always left on by the stairs. I stepped out of my car and felt the cold bite across my face. Something was wrong. Mira never kept the house this silent. I walked up the path, my eyes scanning everything: the pulled-back curtains, the untouched snow on the front mat, the faint outline of footprints that didn't match Mira's boots or Jason's shoes. I stopped at the bottom step and frowned. Those weren't her steps. Too wide, too heavy. I steadied my breath and climbed the stairs. As I raised my hand to knock, a voice tore through the quiet. "Stop! Please, stop!" I turned sharply. A man from the house next door was running toward me, waving his arms. His face was pale, his breath fogging in the air. He reached me, chest heaving. "Ma'am, don't go in. Please don't go in." "Tell me why," I said. My voice stayed low and firm. He swallowed hard. "I already called 911. "Why?" I pressed. His hands shook. "I saw someone inside your daughter's house, someone who wasn't her. They were moving in the hallway. The lights went out, and then I heard something fall. Hard." I didn't blink. "When?" "Maybe 15 minutes ago." I didn't waste time on panic. "What did they look like?" "I don't know. Dark clothes, wrong height for Mira, definitely not her." Before I could ask more, sirens echoed down the street. Blue and red lights splashed across the snowy pavement as 2 patrol cars stopped abruptly. Officers stepped out fast. One called out, "Ma'am, step away from the door." I answered, "My daughter and her husband live here. I need this door open now." The officer nodded and tested the knob. Locked. He signaled to the partner with the ram. I pointed at the handle. "The lock is strained. Someone forced it earlier. Hit it higher." The officer paused, looked, and saw I was right. "She's correct." They adjusted position. 1 strike, wood cracked. 2nd strike, metal snapped. The door swung open with a heavy groan. A dense, cold darkness waited inside. The officers entered first, flashlights cutting through the room. I stepped behind them, staying close enough to see everything. The living room was disturbed, but not like a robbery. A chair tilted, a throw pillow on the floor, a lamp leaning sideways. Nothing missing, nothing smashed, just wrong. I pointed at the mantel. Mira would never leave that candle burned out. Someone touched this room after she was here. One officer crouched, shining his light along the hardwood floor. "Hold up. Blood." I moved beside him. A thin trail of drops led from the hallway toward the kitchen, fresh enough that the edges were still glossy. "What happened to my daughter?" I asked. No tremble, no break. The officer stood. "We don't know yet, ma'am. Stay behind us." "Tant!" I didn't move back. I looked toward the hallway. The bedroom door was half open, though Mira always closed it to keep heat in. The kitchen door was ajar, and a faint draft pushed through. I pointed. "The back door is open. Whoever was here left through it." Daniel stood behind me, voice cracking. "I told you. I wasn't imagining it. I knew something was wrong." I nodded once. "You did the right thing calling the police." Another officer radioed, "Possible assault. Back entry open. Unknown suspect may still be nearby." I tightened my grip on my bag and stepped farther into the room. The air was cold, but one thing was clear. Whatever happened here, happened recently. And Mira was nowhere in sight. The officers pushed deeper into the living room, flashlights cutting through the dim space. I stayed close, not interfering, but refusing to stand back like a bystander. This was my daughter's home, and every detail mattered. One officer requested, "Ma'am, please allow us to clear each room first." "My presence won't slow you," I replied calmly. "I understand this house better than any of you." The room was disturbed in subtle ways only someone who knew Mira intimately could recognize. Her Christmas pillow had been nudged off-center on the couch. Mira never left it crooked. A coaster sat on the floor by the recliner as though knocked aside in a struggle. But nothing was shattered, nothing rifled through. My attention locked onto a white ceramic mug on the coffee table. A snowflake pattern circled the rim. A thin wisp of heat floated upward. I moved toward it, stopping just close enough to examine. Without touching, I held my hand above the cup. The warmth radiated clearly. "She was here minutes ago," I noted steadily. The officer nearest me leaned in. "How can you be so certain?" "She hates cold cocoa. She drinks it immediately. The temperature tells me this wasn't poured long before something happened." He paused, reassessing the entire room with new urgency. I straightened and scanned the hallway. Mira kept her home tidy to a fault. Her exact habits were etched into my mind. One framed photo hung slightly crooked. It had been perfectly aligned for years. Below it, a faint smear on the wall stood out under the flashlight beam, wider than the width of her shoulders. "Someone brushed this walking fast," I observed. The officer beside me murmured, "Could be." "It doesn't match Mira or Jason's build," I added. "This is unfamiliar." A light draft slid across the hardwood floor. I followed it toward the kitchen. There, spaced across the tiles, lay 3 small drops of blood, fresh enough that the center still shined. One officer crouched down. "We've got more blood." I lowered myself to view it from eye level. Not enough for a major wound, more like skin scraped during a struggle. He studied the droplets. "That makes sense." The kitchen door was ajar. I pushed it open with one knuckle, letting the light hit the entry. Mira never left this door cracked at night. The metal knob felt cold against my skin. "Mira's hands always warm this handle," I remarked. "She touches it often. This cold means someone else opened it recently." The officer stared at the knob, then at me. "You read a lot from small details." "I pay attention. That's how people stay alive." Behind us, another officer shouted from the hallway, "Garage doors open!" My chest tightened. I crossed the kitchen quickly, steps measured but fast. The officer lifted the garage door. It groaned, echoing into the cold space. Inside, the garage looked undisturbed at first glance. Boxes stacked neatly, tools lined up along the pegboard. Jason kept this space organized. Then I saw it. A red knitted Christmas scarf lying near the cement step. My throat constricted, but my voice stayed level. "That belongs to Mira." I approached and lowered myself to one knee. The scarf had a faint smear along the corner. Dark, drying. "She would never leave this on the floor," I said evenly, "and certainly not with blood on it." The officer knelt beside me. "Do you recognize that stain?" "Yes. It's recent." His flashlight tracked a faint mark trailing away from the scarf, a subtle drag line across the concrete, almost erased by moisture but still visible under the light. "We've got a drag pattern," he muttered. I examined the direction. Toward the side door, someone pulled her or something she held. He exhaled. "This doesn't look like a break-in." "Correct," I responded. "Nothing is missing, nothing rummaged. Whoever did this wasn't searching for valuables. They were here for her." He looked up sharply. "You think someone waited inside?" "Not think," I corrected him. "Someone was already here before she made that cocoa." Silence hit the garage. The realization shifted the entire investigation. I rose to my feet, jaw set, and faced both officers. "Start expanding the search radius," I instructed calmly. "If she was taken through this door, they didn't get far before the rain started. Every minute lost is a minute she's alone." The officer gave a firm nod, finally understanding I wasn't a panicked mother. I was the one who would lead them through this. The officers moved toward the living room again, shifting their focus to electronics. Mira kept a baby monitor camera in the corner because she liked watching the house when she cooked or cleaned. She mentioned it to me once, laughing about how it made her feel like she had an extra set of eyes. Tonight, those eyes mattered. One officer reached for the device. "We've got a recording unit here." "Pull the last hour," I instructed, folding my arms. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. He connected the monitor to his portable screen. The video blinked on, grainy at first, then sharpened. I stepped beside him, standing close enough to see every detail. Mira appeared on the feed. She was walking from the kitchen, placing the cocoa mug on the table. Her hair was tied back loosely, her sweater sleeves pushed up. She looked tired, more tired than she ever admitted to me. A knot tightened in my chest. "Rewind 10 seconds, I requested. The officer tapped the controls. Mira paused mid-step. The faint sound of her humming came through the tiny monitor speaker, something she did when she felt safe. But her safety didn't last. Mira glanced toward the front door, puzzled by something we couldn't see. She took one small step forward, then hesitated. She sensed something. Instinct. Just like mine. "Slow it down," I murmured. The footage shifted to half speed. Mira turned slightly, as if listening. Then, behind her, a figure emerged at the edge of the frame. A woman, thin, dark hair, standing too still. The officer's breath caught. What the hell? The woman didn't break into the house. She didn't smash anything. She simply stepped out of the hallway shadows as if she had been waiting there, waiting inside the home. My jaw clenched hard enough to ache. "Pause it." The image froze. The woman's face hovered behind Mira, partly hidden by the angle of the camera. Her posture was wrong, forward, tensed, ready to lunge. "Zoom in," I instructed. The officer tapped the controls again. The face became clearer. Sharp cheekbones, hollow eyes, a stare that didn't blink. "Do you recognize her?" the officer asked. "No," I answered quietly, "but she recognizes Mira." We watched as Mira turned fully, realizing someone was behind her. The instant fear on her face felt like a punch in the chest. She stumbled backward. The woman lunged. The camera shook violently. The picture tilted and showed only the ceiling for a moment before the image cut off. Then silence. Another officer swallowed hard. This wasn't a robbery. She didn't go through drawers. She wasn't searching for anything. She was waiting, I stated. A moment passed before the first officer looked at me. Who could she be? Not someone Mira would ever invite inside, I answered. And she's too comfortable moving through this house. She's been here before tonight. The room fell quiet. The officer rewound the footage again, studying the woman's stance. She knew the camera was here. She moved around it intentionally. Of course she did, I replied. She didn't want to be seen until she decided it didn't matter anymore. The baby monitor beeped softly as it looped to the end of the recording. Mira's face never reappeared. A cold pressure settled in my chest, but my voice stayed level. We need her name. Someone in this city knows who she is. The officer nearest me nodded. We'll process the footage and run facial recognition. One of them stepped out to radio Detective Harris, requesting immediate review. Across the room, Daniel Brooks lingered in the doorway, pale and shaken. That's the woman I saw, he muttered. I knew something was wrong the second she moved past the window. I turned toward him, my expression steady. Your timing helped more than you know. His hand trembled. I didn't want to imagine the worst. You imagined correctly tonight, I responded. And you acted. TCEs. As the officers carried the device to their vehicle for processing, I looked once more at the paused frame, the hollow-eyed woman watching my daughter just seconds before she struck. My pulse stayed steady. My mind did not. Whoever she was, she had walked into my daughter's home like she belonged there. And that told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't random. This was personal. Detective Harris arrived 20 minutes after the footage was pulled. His entrance changed the air in the room, focused, efficient, ready to assemble the pieces. He carried a laptop under his arm and walked straight toward the dining table. Mrs. Hartley, he greeted with a firm nod. We've isolated the woman's face from the footage. I need your cooperation as we run this through the system. You'll have it, I replied, stepping beside him. Jason rushed in at that moment, out of breath, clothes wrinkled, hair disheveled. His keys clattered against the floor as he scrambled to pick them up. Where's Mira? He demanded, voice cracking. What's going on? My eyes met his, controlled, assessing. She's missing. You arrived late. His face crumpled, remorse pushing through every line. My phone died. I didn't see the calls. Focus, I instructed sharply. Panic won't help her. He froze, almost flinching at the firmness in my voice. Detective Harris interjected. Mr. Ward, we found evidence of a struggle and an unknown woman inside your home. We're reviewing your connection to her. Jason's confusion twisted into dread. Unknown woman? No, I don't. Harris opened the laptop and turned it toward him. The zoomed frame appeared, the dark-haired woman lurking behind Mira. Jason's lips parted in shock, his face drained of all color. You recognize her, I noted. My tone leveled into something colder. His shoulders sagged. Rachel Corman. I inhaled slowly. Explain. He pressed his palm to his forehead, trembling. She and I, years ago, we lived together for almost 2 years. It wasn't stable. She had severe anxiety, jealousy, mood swings. I left because it became dangerous. I should have told Mira. I should have told you. Dangerous how? Detective Harris pressed. Jason swallowed. She would disappear for days. Show up suddenly at my workplace. Once she threatened to hurt herself if I didn't come home. I filed for a restraining order, but she begged me to withdraw it. I gave in. That was your mistake, I responded, voice steady, unblinking. And now, Mira is paying for it. Jason covered his face, collapsing into the nearest chair. I didn't think she'd come back. I thought she left the state. She said she would. People like her don't just disappear, I countered quietly. They wait. Detective Harris lifted a folder from his bag. We ran her license. She's been staying in multiple motels near this neighborhood for the last 3 months. Jason's head snapped up. 3 months? Harris spread several printed motel receipts on the table. She checked into the Blue Pine Lodge 6 weeks ago, the Evergreen Motor Inn 3 weeks ago, and 2 nights at the Gardenway Motel, all within 3 miles of this home. I stared at the receipts, noting dates, durations, the deliberate consistency of her presence. She's been watching Mira for a long time. Harris nodded. We also located traffic camera footage from 2 days ago. He clicked a video file. A dark SUV rolled into the frame. The front seat passenger, Rachel, glanced toward Mira's house as they passed. Jason let out a pained breath. I can't believe she was still around. You didn't monitor her, I answered. You hoped ignoring your past would erase it. Problems don't disappear because you pretend they're gone. He dropped his gaze to the floor, shame pulling him downward. Detective Harris scrolled through additional documents. We retrieved fragments of her medical and psychological files, public records only. She was evaluated for instability last year, high emotional reactivity, obsession tendencies, a history of stalking behaviors. I locked eyes with Harris. She wasn't here by accident. No, Harris agreed. This was planned. Jason clenched his fists. Why target Mira? Why her? Because Mira represents the life Rachel thinks she lost, I answered plainly. Your marriage, your stability, everything she couldn't hold on to. Jason shook his head in disbelief. Mira didn't do anything to her. Some people don't need provocation, I replied. They just need someone to blame. Harris tapped the laptop. We also learned she purchased a prepaid phone last week. Last ping was near the marsh area heading toward Francis Marion National Forest. If she took Mira, she could be hiding there. Jason's voice barely rose above a whisper. She wouldn't hurt Mira, would she? She already has, I responded, tone steady and unforgiving. Maybe not mortally yet, but she dragged her out of this house. That alone tells us enough. His breath hitched. I should have told Mira. I should have warned her. Regret doesn't save people, I cut in. Action does. Harris straightened. We're preparing a search team immediately. We'll need you both to answer more questions to form the profile. I faced him, calm and unwavering. Ask what you need. I'm not leaving this house until we have her location. Jason hesitated. Mrs. Hartley, do you blame me? I blame the choices that brought Rachel back into this home, I answered. But right now, my priority is Mira, not your guilt. He lowered his head, stunned into silence. Detective Harris closed the laptop. Based on what we've gathered, Rachel didn't show up tonight. She's been here, waiting, watching. I nodded once. Then we find her before she decides she has nothing left to lose. Detective Harris arrived 20 minutes after the footage was pulled. His entrance changed the air in the room, focused, efficient, ready to assemble the pieces. He carried a laptop under his arm and walked straight toward the dining table. "Mrs. Hartley," he greeted with a firm nod, "we've isolated the woman's face from the footage. I need your cooperation as we run this through the system." "You'll have it," I replied, stepping beside him. Jason rushed in at that moment, out of breath, clothes wrinkled, hair disheveled. His keys clattered against the floor as he scrambled to pick them up. "Where's Mira?" he demanded, voice cracking. "What's going on?" My eyes met his, controlled, assessing. "She's missing. You arrived late." His face crumpled, remorse pushing through every line. My phone died. I didn't see the calls." "Focus," I instructed sharply. "Panic won't help her." He froze, almost flinching at the firmness in my voice. Detective Harris interjected. "Mr. Ward, we found evidence of a struggle and an unknown woman inside your home. We're reviewing your connection to her." Jason's confusion twisted into dread. "Unknown woman? No, I don't." Harris opened the laptop and turned it toward him. The zoomed frame appeared. The dark-haired woman lurking behind Mira. Jason's lips parted in shock. His face drained of all color. "You recognize her," I noted, my tone leveled into something colder. His shoulders sagged. Rachel Corman." I inhaled slowly. "Explain." He pressed his palm to his forehead, trembling. "She and I, years ago, we lived together for almost 2 years. It wasn't stable. She had severe anxiety, jealousy, mood swings. I left because it became dangerous. I should have told Mira. I should have told you." "Dangerous how?" Detective Harris pressed. Jason swallowed. "She would disappear for days, show up suddenly at my workplace. Once she threatened to hurt herself if I didn't come home. I filed for a restraining order, but she begged me to withdraw it. I gave in." "That was your mistake," I responded, voice steady, unblinking. "And now Mira is paying for it." Jason covered his face, collapsing into the nearest chair. "I didn't think she'd come back. I thought she left the state. She said she would." "People like her don't just disappear," I countered quietly. "They wait." Detective Harris lifted a folder from his bag. "We ran her license. She's been staying in multiple motels near this neighborhood for the last 3 months. Jason's head snapped up. 3 months? Harris spread several printed motel receipts on the table. She checked into the Blue Pine Lodge 6 weeks ago, the Evergreen Motor Inn 3 weeks ago, and 2 nights at the Gardenway Motel, all within 3 miles of this home. I stared at the receipts, noting dates, durations, the deliberate consistency of her presence. She's been watching Mira for a long time. Harris nodded. "We also located traffic camera footage from 2 days ago." He clicked a video file. A dark SUV rolled into the frame. The front seat passenger, Rachel, glanced toward Mira's house as they passed. Jason let out a pained breath. "I can't believe she was still around." "You didn't monitor her," I answered. "You hoped ignoring your past would erase it. Problems don't disappear because you pretend they're gone." He dropped his gaze to the floor, shame pulling him downward. Detective Harris scrolled through additional documents. We retrieved fragments of her medical and psychological files, public records only. She was evaluated for instability last year, high emotional reactivity, obsession tendencies, a history of stalking behaviors. I locked eyes with Harris. "She wasn't here by accident." "No," Harris agreed. "This was planned." Jason clenched his fists. "Why target Mira? Why her?" "Because Mira represents the life Rachel thinks she lost," I answered plainly. "Your marriage, your stability, everything she couldn't hold on to." Jason shook his head in disbelief. "Mira didn't do anything to her." "Some people don't need provocation," I replied. "They just need someone to blame." Harris tapped the laptop. "We also learned she purchased a prepaid phone last week. Last ping was near the marsh area heading toward Francis Marion National Forest. If she took Mira, she could be hiding there." Jason's voice barely rose above a whisper. She wouldn't hurt Mira. Would she? She already has, I responded, tone steady and unforgiving. Maybe not mortally yet, but she dragged her out of this house. That alone tells us enough. His breath hitched. I should have told Mira. I should have warned her. Regret doesn't save people, I cut in. Action does. Harris straightened. We're preparing a search team immediately. We'll need you both to answer more questions to form the profile. I faced him, calm and unwavering. Ask what you need. I'm not leaving this house until we have her location. Jason hesitated. Mrs. Hartley, do you blame me? I blame the choices that brought Rachel back into this home, I answered. But right now my priority is Mira, not your guilt. He lowered his head, stunned into silence. Detective Harris closed the laptop. Based on what we've gathered, Rachel didn't show up tonight. She's been here, waiting, watching. I nodded once. Then we find her before she decides she has nothing left to lose. The moment we stepped out of the basement, Detective Harris radioed dispatch. Within minutes, 3 patrol cars, a K-9 unit, and a search van rolled up the driveway. Red and blue lights painted the street, reflecting harshly across the windows of Mira's house. I stood on the porch, arms crossed tightly, watching the officers gather equipment. Jason hovered off to the side, pale, shaken, and completely silent. He looked at me as though waiting for permission to breathe. He wasn't getting it. Detective, I called, stepping down from the porch. Rachel marked multiple sites in Francis Marion National Forest. Which one is closest to the motel she stayed at last? Harris scrolled on his device. Cabin clusters near the North Ridge, 2 abandoned structures, 1 ranger cabin no longer in service. She's not stupid, I answered. She wouldn't risk a locked structure. She'll choose something she can enter quickly. Officer Kimball approached, lifting a thermal camera. We're ready to track heat signatures once we're in dense woods. Good, I replied. Mira won't generate much heat if she's injured. Focus on small, faint signatures first. Harris gave me a look. Respect, not surprise. You've done this before? No, I just pay attention. He nodded once. Load up. We climbed into the lead vehicle. Harris driving, Kimball in the passenger seat, me in the back with another officer. Jason tried to follow. My hand rose instinctively. Stay, you'll slow us down. His voice cracked. Quinn, please. What Mira needs from you is silence and cooperation. Give her that. He froze, then stepped back. That was enough. The convoy pulled out, engines roaring through the quiet neighborhood. As we left the house behind, the streetlights faded, replaced by the vast darkness of the southern woods. Francis Marion National Forest spread ahead, dense trees, cold winter air, and patches of fog drifting across the ground. The vehicles parked at the trail entry. Officers spread out immediately, scanning the area. Kimball checked the thermal camera. I'll test it now. Hold, I countered, raising a hand. Start with the ground first. He blinked. The ground? If Rachel dragged Mira, she'd leave heat impressions for a short time. The earth keeps residual warmth longer than bark. He pointed the device down. Faint orange smears appeared across the soil. Kimball's brows lifted. She's right. Drag marks, still warm. We followed the streaks deeper into the forest. The air bit through our jackets. Branches snapped under our boots. Fog thickened around us. Harris kept his flashlight low. We're moving in the direction of the ridge cabins. Rachel planned this, I stated. She didn't panic. She moved Mira fast. She knew which paths were hidden. Kimball angled the camera forward. 2 heat signatures up ahead, weak and close together. How far? I asked. 300 feet. Which direction? Kimball adjusted the device. East, toward a structure. We moved quickly, weaving between trees. My heart pounded loud enough to feel in my ears, but my voice stayed level. If you see a break in the ground cover, announce immediately. An officer behind me responded, Yes, ma'am. Branches scraped our sleeves as we pushed forward. Then something red caught my eye on a low branch. Men, stop, I ordered, stepping forward. A shredded piece of knit snagged on the bark, red, with a tiny white thread pattern. Mira's Christmas sweater. I reached out, feeling the fabric. It was damp, but not soaked through. She came through less than an hour ago, I assessed. The moisture hasn't fully set. Harris leaned in. You're certain? Yes. Fabric absorbs dew slowly. This is too dry for overnight. Kimball lifted the thermal camera again. Heat signature just shifted. They're on the move. My chest tightened. Rachel's losing strength. If she's dragging Mira, she won't keep a steady pace. So she's slowing, Harris concluded. Which makes her more dangerous, I added. Fear makes unstable people reckless. We pushed through another cluster of trees until a structure appeared. Weathered wood, broken shingles, faded holiday lights from years ago, still dangling under the roofline. Cabin, Harris confirmed quietly. My pulse hit harder. We approached cautiously. Kimball swept the thermal across the exterior. Heat inside, very faint. She's not in that cabin, I responded immediately. Rachel's too paranoid to trap herself. Then why heat signatures inside? Kimball asked. Because she rested there, not long, maybe minutes before moving again. Harris scanned the doorframe. Blood. He pointed to a smear. Not dried. Mira fought, I murmured. Good girl. Inside, the cabin was a mess. Blankets tossed, a thermos cup lying on its side. I knelt, pressing 2 fingers against the metal. Still warm. She was here less than 20 minutes ago, I concluded. My voice tightened for the first time. She's fading, but alive. Harris radioed the update. Team 1, heat signatures confirmed. Subject and victim heading deeper east. Prepare perimeter. Kimball checked the device again. 2 signatures, moving slowly. Rachel's limping. Which direction? I pressed. He pointed toward the deeper woods. That way, straight into the Ridge Valley. I stood immediately. We move, now. The officers aligned behind Harris, weapons lowered but ready. I stepped beside him. I'm going in front, I stated. Mrs. Hartley, she's my daughter, and you need someone who reads Rachel's pattern faster than the device. I stared him down. You know I'm right. After a tense beat, Harris gave a curt nod. Stay between me and Kimball. We advanced. Branches whipped our arms. Frost bit at our faces. But we kept pace. Not running, but fast enough to shrink the distance between us and the shifting heat signatures. Kimball whispered urgently, heat pattern narrowing. They're just ahead. My heart hammered, but my voice came out like steel. Mira, hold on. I'm coming. We pushed deeper into the valley, toward the faint echo of something. Movement, breath, struggle. Whatever waited ahead, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. We weren't late. Not yet. The farther we pushed into Francis Marion National Forest, the more the trees closed in around us. The moon barely slipped through the branches. The fog pressed low against the ground, scattering our flashlight beams. Officer Kimball kept the thermal camera lifted in front of him, while Detective Harris scanned the area for movement. I stayed in front, just ahead of Harris, but not far enough to be pulled back. That was non-negotiable. Update, I demanded, eyes locked forward. Kimball steadied the device. 2 heat signatures still moving, 1 strong, 1 very weak. Mira, I breathed. Not despair. Calculation. Rachel's dragging her, and she's slowing. Harris adjusted his grip on his flashlight. Rachel's losing blood. She won't stay on her feet long. That makes her more unpredictable, I countered. Cornered people lash out. She won't think clearly, and she'll choose the darkest path she can find. Kimball looked up. Where would that be out here? I pointed ahead, breath sharp. Magnolia Ridge Mine. Harris's jaw clenched. The old mining tunnels? Yes. They're unstable, abandoned, and unmarked. Rachel wants isolation. She wants somewhere no one will hear Mira scream. Harris nodded grimly. Then we pick up the pace. We broke into a faster stride. Our boots hammered against the damp earth, branches snapped underfoot, echoing into the night. I felt the cold clawing through my sleeves, but it didn't matter. All I cared about was closing the distance before Rachel could drag my daughter somewhere we couldn't reach. Kimball, I urged, keep that camera steady. If Mira collapses, her signature will drop to nearly nothing. I've got it, he confirmed, eyes locked on the screen. We continued deeper until the ground changed. harder, rockier, uneven. I crouched quickly and touched the soil. "Stop." Harris stepped beside me. "What do you see?" "Drag marks," I identified. "Not footprints." Mira was pulled, and the pattern shows Rachel stumbled. Twice. Kimball lowered the thermal. "How do you know it was twice?" "Because the soil breaks are uneven." I pointed to 2 indentations in the path. "This one is deep. Rachel fell forward. This one is shallow. She caught herself, but slipped again." Harris stared at me with something like awe. "You could teach half my recruits." "I don't care about recruits," I responded. "I care about my daughter." We climbed a small ridge, and that's when I spotted it, a torn strip of red fabric caught on a jagged branch. Mira's sweater. I reached for it, rubbing the fibers between my fingers. The chill settling into the knit told me everything. "She passed here less than 30 minutes ago," I concluded. "The dew hasn't fully set." Kimball checked the thermal again. "Signatures just shifted left, heading toward the rock formations." Harris turned his head sharply. "Magnolia Ridge." We pushed forward. The woods thinned slightly, replaced by towering boulders and jagged stone walls rising unevenly from the earth. The mine was close, very close. A cold gust cut across the trail, carrying a faint metallic scent. Blood. Harris cursed under his breath. "Rachel's bleeding more heavily now." "That won't slow her down," I countered. "She'll only get more desperate." Kimball stopped abruptly. "Ma'am, detective, look." He pointed the thermal camera toward a massive rock structure. The screen glowed faint orange where the stone sloped down into a narrow opening. The entrance to Magnolia Ridge Mine. I stepped forward, pulse slamming in my ears. She took Mira inside. Harris examined the ground. Blood drops. Fresh. One of the officers swallowed hard. "This place is dangerous. The tunnels collapse without warning." I stared at the dark opening, my voice steady. "Then we move fast." Kimball angled the thermal toward the entrance. 2 signatures inside the mine, one almost gone. My stomach twisted, but my voice stayed even. "Mira's close to passing out." Harris stepped behind me. "Mrs. Hartley, once we enter, follow my commands. The tunnels are unpredictable." "I'll stay where you need me," I replied, "as long as I'm still close enough to reach my daughter." He didn't argue. He knew better. We moved toward the mine entrance. The cold wind funneled out of the tunnel, carrying the sound of distant movement, shuffling, breath, something heavy being dragged. "Rachel." I raised my hand sharply. "Listen." Everyone stilled. A faint scrape echoed through the tunnel. Harris lowered his voice. "She's not far, maybe 50 yards ahead." Kimball checked the thermal one more time. "Her heat signature is flickering. She's weak." "She's running out of time," I murmured. "So are we." We stepped inside the mine. The darkness swallowed us instantly. Flashlights switched on, cutting narrow paths of light through the black. Dripping water echoed from somewhere deep inside, bouncing off the stone walls. Harris whispered, "Stay close. Follow the left wall." "Hold up." I crouched again, shining my light across the dirt path. "Footprints. Rachel stumbled here. See the heavy heel drag." Kimball leaned forward. "And the smaller prints?" "Mira tried to stand," I assessed coldly. "She pushed herself upright for a second, before collapsing again." Harris's eyes hardened. "We pick up speed." As we advanced, the tunnel split into 2 corridors, one narrow and steep, the other wide but cluttered with fallen rock. Kimball lifted the thermal. "Heat trail goes right." I shook my head. "No, that's too obvious." Harris turned to me. "Explain." "Rachel's paranoid," I said. "She'll avoid the path where she leaves obvious tracks. She'll choose the narrower one. Less light, less noise, harder to follow." Kimball scanned again. "But the thermal says—" "Rachel's body heat reflects off the stone walls," I interrupted. "In narrow spaces it bounces. It creates a false trail." Harris considered it, then nodded. "She's right. We go left." We slipped into the tighter passage. The air tightened around us, damp and stale. Pebbles crunched under our boots. Suddenly, a faint sound drifted back to us, a choked gasp. I froze. "Mira." Harris raised his fist, signaling silence. Another sound followed, a painful, dragging noise, and then a voice, weak and slurred. "Stop! Please! Stop!" Mira. My breath caught, but I didn't collapse. I straightened, voice steadier than steel. "She's alive! Move!" We surged forward, flashlights slicing deeper into the darkness. The tunnel widened slightly, and then I saw it. A single red shoe lying in the dirt. Mira's. I picked it up, fingers trembling for the first time. Not from fear, from fury. "We are seconds behind them," I whispered. "Seconds." Harris leaned in, determination burning across his face. "Then we finish this." The tunnel swallowed our flashlights the deeper we moved. Every sound bounced back at us. Footsteps, breathing, the faint rattle of loose stones. The air turned colder, thicker, and the smell of dust mixed with the metallic scent I recognized instantly. Blood. Harris raised his fist. We stopped. Kimball aimed the thermal camera ahead. 2 heat signatures. Faint. They're close, maybe 100 feet. "Keep moving," I ordered quietly. My voice didn't shake. It couldn't. We advanced until the tunnel opened into a wider chamber. Our lights cut across jagged rock walls dripping with moisture. A wooden support beam leaned crookedly, barely holding its own weight. Kimball examined the thermal screen again. "Signatures stopped moving." "Rachel rested," I responded. "She's losing strength faster than we thought." Harris swept the beam across the left side. "Blood drops. Fresh." My pulse kicked hard, but my voice stayed low and sharp. "She dragged Mira through here. Look at the spacing." Rachel stumbled again. Kimball frowned. "How can you tell?" "The smear pattern," I pointed. "She caught herself on the wall. Mira didn't leave that mark. Rachel did." The team nodded, trusting me without question now. We crossed the chamber carefully. Loose stones crunched under our boots. Every step felt like it could trigger a collapse. The mine groaned above us, dust falling in small drifts. "Listen," I murmured suddenly. Everyone froze. A weak cry echoed faintly from deeper inside the tunnel. High-pitched at first, then smothered, almost like someone covered a mouth. "Mira." My hand tightened around the flashlight until my knuckles strained. Harris whispered, "It came from the right side tunnel." "No." I shook my head immediately. "That's echo bounce. The mine distorts sound. She's ahead. Straight, not right." Kimball angled the thermal camera. "She's correct. The signatures are directly ahead." We hurried forward, but not recklessly. Every rock shift, every breath of stale air, every faint vibration mattered. This place didn't need an excuse to bury us alive. We reached a fork in the tunnel where the ceiling dipped dangerously low. Harris crouched, checking the stability. I knelt beside him. "Dust is still airborne. Something collapsed here recently." Kimball swung the thermal camera toward the right fork. "Heat residue on the rocks. Someone touched them within minutes." "Rachel tried to go right," I concluded. "The collapse blocked her. She backtracked." "Then she took the left route," Harris said. "No," I corrected. "Not left either. Look at the ground. No drag path. No blood trail." Harris's brows tightened. "Then where?" I turned my flashlight upward. The beam caught fresh scrape marks along the stone. "She climbed over," I stated, rising quickly. "She dragged Mira up the sidewall and around the collapse." Kimball stared at the height. "That's a 7-foot climb." "How?" "Desperation gives people strength," I cut in. "Fear gives them more." Harris radioed the second team. "We're climbing the right wall. Bring rope back up." Before the officers could prepare gear, I was already climbing. Harris grabbed my arm lightly. "Mrs. Hartley, let us go first." "No," I responded, eyes locked on the top ledge. "If Rachel is seconds ahead, I need to be the one she sees first." Harris hesitated, then released my arm. "Stay between me and Kimball." I climbed. The rock scraped my palms, but I ignored it. When I reached the ledge, I pulled myself up, sweeping the light across the new path. My stomach tightened. A red stain smeared across the ground. Mira's blood. I knelt, touching it with my fingertips, analyzing the warmth. She passed here less than 10 minutes ago. Harris and Kimball climbed up behind me. "Heat signatures still forward," Kimball whispered. We moved again, faster now, urgency rising, but controlled. The tunnel narrowed, forcing us to squeeze through a tight passageway. Rocks scraped our shoulders. Dust choked the air. I heard another distant cry, faint, weak, terrified. "Mira," I breathed. Her voice broke something inside me, but it sharpened something else. Resolve. We reached another chamber, larger, shaped like a bowl carved into the earth. Echoes swirled in every direction, overwhelming with noise. Kimball lifted the thermal camera. "She's here, somewhere in this chamber. Kill the flashlights," I ordered. Harris looked at me with surprise. "Why?" "Light creates shadow pockets. Rachel will hide in them. In the dark, she can't track our aim." Harris nodded. "Lights off." Darkness engulfed us instantly. Kimball whispered, "Thermal on." The device glowed, carving the darkness into shapes. Two faint heat forms appeared at the far end of the chamber, one slumped on the ground, one crouched behind a column of stone. "Rachel." I gripped Harris's arm. "Don't spook her. She'll use Mira as a shield." "Agreed," Harris murmured. We inched forward, slow and silent. A whisper broke the darkness. "Don't come closer." Rachel's voice, fragile, unstable, unhinged. My heart hammered, but my voice stayed steady, cold as steel. "Rachel, look at me." Her breathing hitched. "Stay where you are." "Mira can't stand," I continued, taking one step. "And you can't carry her anymore. You're bleeding out." Rachel let out a broken laugh that cracked mid-sound. "She took everything from me." "She took nothing," I replied. "You lost Jason long before Mira existed." A stone clattered as she shifted. The thermal picked up her movement. She was swaying, barely balanced. "She's planning to run," I whispered to Harris. "She's desperate." Rachel's voice trembled. "I won't let you take him." "You never had him," I responded sharply. "You had chaos, and you mistook it for love." Silence. Then, movement. Rachel pushed against the stone column, dragging herself upright. The chamber rumbled. A slab of rock above her loosened, shaking violently. Harris jerked forward. "Rachel, don't move!" Her foot slipped. The ceiling crack thundered. "Move!" Harris barked. The rock came crashing down as Rachel screamed, a sound swallowed instantly by the collapse. Dust exploded into the chamber. Debris rained down around us. We ducked, covering our heads. When the dust settled, Rachel lay crushed under the fallen rock. Kimball scanned quickly. One heat signature gone, one faint remains. Mira. I didn't wait. I ran toward the faint heat spot, toward my daughter, my voice breaking just enough to prove I was human. "Mira, I'm here." Dust still drifted through the air when I reached the slumped heat signature on Kimball's thermal screen. The beam cut through the settling cloud, and Mira's shape slowly appeared, curled against the stone floor, wrists bruised, breath shallow. "Mira," I whispered, already dropping to my knees beside her. Her eyelids fluttered, but didn't fully open. Her lips parted, releasing a faint sound that barely carried through the dust. "Mom?" "I'm right here," I murmured, steadying her head and checking her airway. Her breathing rattled, uneven, weak. "You stay with me." Detective Harris jogged over, coughing from the dust. He knelt beside us. "She's alive. Pulse is weak, but there." "Get EMS on standby at the entrance," I instructed him. "The second we get her out, I want a med team ready." Kimball scanned the chamber again. "Heat signature from Rachel is gone. Impact killed her instantly." "Good," I answered, not with cruelty, just finality. "She made her choice, and Mira deserves to live." Mira's fingers twitched around my wrist. She dragged me." "I know," I assured her. "You're safe now." Her eyes rolled slightly. She was slipping again. "Stay awake," I commanded softly. "You hear me? Stay awake." Her lips moved, but no words came out. Harris leaned closer. "She's dehydrated and losing blood. We need to move." "Not yet," I countered. "She's semi-conscious. If we move her too fast without stabilizing her head—" "I'm trained for this," Harris cut in. "We'll keep her neck aligned." I nodded. "Fine. But I hold her." Harris didn't argue. He knew better. He motioned for two officers. They laid out a compact rescue blanket, and we carefully rolled Mira onto it. She winced, barely audible, but the sound sliced straight through me. "It's okay," I whispered close to her ear. "I've got you. You're not alone." Harris checked her pulse again. "Weak but steady. Let's go." We lifted her gently and started toward the narrow tunnel that would take us back toward the mine entrance. Kimball scanned ahead with the thermal in case the collapse triggered aftershocks, but as we took the first step forward, a sharp echo tore through the chamber. 3 officers froze. Harris raised his hand. "Everyone hold!" I stiffened. "What was that?" Kimball aimed the thermal camera toward the left wall. "Movement." My eyes narrowed. "Rachel?" "No," Harris responded. "Her body's under 300 pounds of rock. She's not moving." Kimball squinted. "Small signature, behind the fallen rocks, probably debris settling." A second echo burst from the tunnel. Mira flinched violently in my arms. I tightened my hold. "We're moving, now." The climb down the rock shelf felt twice as dangerous, with Mira strapped to the rescue blanket. Harris lowered himself first, guiding her legs down, while Kimball and I eased her upper body over the ledge. "Easy," Harris murmured. "One step at a time." My hands never left her. When all 3 of us reached the lower tunnel, Mira's breathing faltered. I positioned her chin, opening her airway again. "Stay with me, sweetheart." Her lashes quivered. "Mom, I couldn't breathe." "You breathe now," I responded firmly. "That's all that matters." We continued forward, navigating around loose rocks and freshly fallen debris. Every shift in the tunnel ceiling made dust rain down. One wrong vibration, and the whole system could collapse. Kimball kept the thermal pointed ahead. "We're almost to the choke point." "The narrow pass?" I asked. "Yeah," he confirmed. "We'll need to angle Mira sideways." "No twisting," I countered sharply. "She might have spinal trauma." Harris stepped beside me. "We'll go slow. I'll support her neck." We reached the choke point, a narrow squeeze barely wide enough for one person. Harris assessed it, then turned to me. "You lead us through," he instructed. "She responds better to your voice." I nodded once and positioned myself ahead. "Pass her forward," Harris murmured. Carefully, agonizingly slowly, they angled Mira's body upright. Her head rolled slightly to the side. I snapped gently. "Eyes on me, Mira. Focus on my voice, just my voice." Her eyes opened the tiniest bit. "Good girl," I whispered. "Now we move." We slid through the narrow pass, inch by inch, Harris keeping her neck stable, Kimball supporting her hips. At one point, a rock scraped across her thigh, and she whimpered in pain. "I know," I murmured. "I know. Just a little more." Halfway through, the tunnel groaned above us, long and deep. Everyone froze. Kimball whispered. That sounded bad. "No one breathes deep," Harris warned. "Don't shift your weight." A pebble rolled from the ceiling, then another. I closed my eyes for a second, grounding myself. "We're not dying in here," I stated flatly. "Not tonight. Move." The team trusted me. We moved. When we slipped free from the choke, Mira's body sagged. Her pulse fluttered wildly under my fingers. Harris checked her again. "Her blood pressure is dropping." "Then we hurry," I responded. We moved faster now, cautiously but urgently, until a faint glow appeared ahead. The tunnel widened, and the cold outdoor air filtered through the mouth of the mine. "Entrance in sight," Kimball announced. Mira's eyes flickered at the light. Her hand twitched weakly against the blanket. "That's it?" I whispered, brushing her knuckles. "You're almost out. Hold on." When we reached the mine entrance, Officer Ramirez and the paramedic team rushed forward. One medic dropped to her knees. "Vitals?" Harris delivered quickly. "Weak pulse, shallow breaths, blood loss, dehydration, probable concussion." "Get the bag valve mask," the medic ordered. Another team member tore open a kit, prepping lines and oxygen. They fitted the mask over Mira's mouth and began compressions to help her breathe. Rate is improving, the medic confirmed. BP is still unstable. We need to medevac her ASAP. A helicopter rotor thundered in the distance. Jason appeared suddenly from behind one of the support vehicles, eyes red and frantic. "Mira! God! Mira!" He tried to rush forward. I stepped into his path so fast he skidded to a stop. "Back," I ordered curtly. "But—" "Back," I repeated, voice slicing through him. "You don't go near her until she's stabilized." He trembled, tears filling his eyes. She's alive," I answered firmly. "Because we found her in time. Because people acted. Because she fought." His face crumpled. "I should have. Your guilt doesn't help her," I cut sharply. "Your presence doesn't help her. Let the medics do their job." He nodded slowly, breaking. Slowly. The medics lifted Mira onto a stretcher and secured her. The helicopter descended, wind blasting across us. The medic yelled over the noise, "One parent only!" I stepped forward. "I'm going!" Jason took a half step, pleading. "Quinn, please!" I turned my head, voice firm and non-negotiable. "You stay here. You lost the privilege of going with her tonight." His face fell. He didn't argue. The medics guided me toward the helicopter. As we lifted Mira inside, her hand slipped from the blanket. I caught it instantly. Her fingers twitched, weak, but there. "I'm here," I whispered over the roar of the blades. "I'm not leaving." The helicopter lifted, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Mira's chest rose with a little more strength. She wasn't safe yet, but she was alive. The helicopter blades thundered above us, sending dirt and cold air whipping across my face as the medics secured Mira inside. I climbed in after them, never releasing her hand. Her skin felt icy, almost weightless in my palm. "BP's crashing," one medic warned as she tightened the oxygen mask. "We need IV access now." The second medic snapped open a kit and worked fast, fighting the vibration of the aircraft. Vein collapsed, starting another line. Mira's chest rose shallowly. Her eyes barely moved under her lids. "Talk to her," the first medic urged. "Keep her responsive if you can." I leaned close. "Mira, breathe with me. In and out. You stay awake. That's an order." Her eyelids twitched once. The pilot's voice boomed through the headset. "ETA to Charleston General, 9 minutes. Winds are rough tonight. Hold tight." "Make it 7. I pushed through clenched teeth. "She needs that OR waiting." "Doing what I can, ma'am." The helicopter jolted, dropping several inches before stabilizing. The medics grabbed the rails to steady themselves. Mira groaned faintly at the impact. "She can't take turbulence like this," the younger medic muttered. "Her oxygen saturation is tanking." "Keep the BVM going," the lead medic instructed, pumping air into Mira's lungs with fast, controlled compressions. "I want breath sounds monitored every 15 seconds. I kept my hand on Mira's cheek, steady, firm. "Stay with me, sweetheart. You hear the rotor? That's life coming for you. Keep breathing." Another violent gust slammed the side of the helicopter. The medic cursed under her breath. "Pilot, can you climb? We're hitting too many downdrafts." "Negative," the pilot answered. "Storm front is pushing us low. Strong tailwind. We're riding it." "Then ride faster," I snapped. The medic glanced at me, half startled, half grateful someone was demanding exactly what she needed. Mira coughed weakly under the mask. Her body jerked slightly. "Good, Mira," I whispered, squeezing her hand. "Give me more. Keep fighting." Her fingers tried to curl around mine. Barely. But they tried. The medic checked the monitor. Heart rate dropping. Thready. Oxygen improving, but not enough. She needs fluids. "Line in," the younger medic announced. "Pushing bolus." The helicopter shuddered again. Then the pilot's alarm beeped sharply. "Hold on," the pilot warned. "Crosswinds ahead. This is going to get rough." The aircraft lurched sideways. Equipment slammed against the wall. A metal drawer flew open, scattering supplies. One of the IV bags slid across the floor. I reached out instantly, caught it with one hand, and shoved it back into the medic's reach. "Got it! Thank you!" she gasped. Mira's head rolled slightly. Her breathing stuttered. BP still falling, the medic muttered while checking the numbers. We're losing her. No, I answered, shaking my head hard. Not after everything she survived. You keep her awake. I'll keep her anchored. I leaned close again. Mira, open your eyes. Just a little. Look at me. Her lashes fluttered twice. There you go, I murmured. Don't quit. Not now. The younger medic clamped the second IV. Fluids running. The pilot's voice thundered again. We're 3 miles out. Turbulence about to break. Push it, I demanded. Already pushing, ma'am. The wind screamed past the helicopter. The rotors strained, but the aircraft finally leveled. The medic seized the moment. Check lungs. I lifted Mira's shoulder slightly while they listened. Left side diminished, one confirmed. Right side barely audible. A cold weight settled in my stomach. Internal bleed? Likely. We can't confirm until imaging. The medic held her mask firmly in place. Honey, stay with us, okay? Breathe in, breathe out. Mira didn't respond. Her monitor beeped twice. Too slow. No, the medic whispered. Come on, baby girl, stay with... I leaned in sharply. Mira, listen to me. You survived that cabin. You survived that mine. You're not dying in a helicopter with me holding your hand. Do you hear me? Open your eyes. Her eyelids jerked. Weak, but there. That's it, I breathed. Good girl. The pilot announced. Approaching hospital pad, 30 seconds. The helicopter banked left. Mira's heart rate spiked suddenly, then plummeted again. Move! The medic barked. We need to roll now! The helicopter touched down hard. The side doors flew open. Hospital trauma staff rushed forward with a waiting gurney. Floodlights blinded the cabin as hands reached in. One of the trauma nurses shouted, Vitals? Unstable, the medic answered. Possible internal bleed, dehydration, concussion, low O2, low BP, move! They lifted Mira with practiced speed. I kept my hand locked on hers until the last possible second. A nurse tried to separate us. Ma'am, we'll take her from here. She's not going in alone, I countered coldly. You can follow, but stay back. Fine. We ran down the hall as Mira's stretcher disappeared through double doors into the trauma bay. Nurses worked around her in a coordinated blur. Prep intubation. Blood gas. Get ultrasound ready. A doctor approached me. You're her mother? Yes. She's critical. We'll stabilize airway and circulation. After that, she's straight to CT and OR if needed. You save her, I told him firmly. She fought her way out of that mine. You make sure she doesn't die in your hospital. He didn't flinch. We'll do everything. He sprinted back into the trauma bay. Jason burst into the hallway seconds later, breathless, panicked. Quinn, how is she? I turned toward him, my expression flat, voice steel. Fighting for her life. He swallowed hard. I should be in there. You should have listened to her warnings months ago, I answered. You don't get to rewrite tonight. His face tightened in guilt and fear. The trauma bay doors swung closed. A red light blinked above them. I stood still, spine straight, breathing controlled. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't break. Mira needed my strength more than my grief. Detective Harris jogged down the hallway, covered in dust and sweat. They told me she made it. How bad? Bad enough, I answered. He nodded grimly. We'll secure the mine site. The state will handle Rachel's body, and we'll review every second of evidence. Later, I murmured. Right now, she needs to live. Harris placed a hand on my shoulder, respectful, quiet. She's alive because of you. No, I corrected. She's alive because she refused to give up. We all turned as a trauma nurse stepped out of the emergency bay. My heart clenched. She walked toward me fast. Mrs. Hartley, she said quickly, we need signatures for immediate surgical consent. Your daughter is going to the OR, now. I didn't hesitate. Show me where to sign. The double doors to the operating hallway slammed open as 2 nurses rushed Mira's stretcher toward the surgical wing. Machines beeped wildly beside her, alarms screaming warnings none of us dared to say out loud. Tubes and wires covered her chest. Her skin was pale, drained, too still. A surgeon in blue scrubs walked fast beside the bed, barking orders. Move anesthesia. Get blood ready. Notify trauma ICU. Possible liver bleed. Possible rib puncture. I followed right behind, refusing to fall back even when staff tried to block me. "Ma'am, you need to stay behind this line," one nurse attempted. I cut her off. "I stay until those doors close." She didn't push again. The stretcher disappeared through the OR doors. They sealed shut with a heavy click. The hallway went silent. Lights above the operating room glowed red. Jason leaned against the opposite wall, shaking. His hands covered his face. God, Quinn, what did she go through? I didn't look at him. More than either of us have the right to imagine. Detective Harris approached slowly, still covered in cave dust. "The surgeon says it'll be hours. They're getting the top trauma team." "She's strong," I replied with quiet certainty. "She'll hold." Jason paced, frantic. "If she dies," I cut in sharply. "She isn't dying." He froze. My voice stayed calm, low, absolute. "She didn't survive that basement. She didn't survive that forest. She didn't survive that mine, just to die under hospital lights. She's fighting. You either stand still and pray, or you get out of my way." Jason swallowed hard and backed up, tears sliding down his face. Harris cleared his throat. "ICU nurse will update us as soon as she's out of surgery." "Good," I answered. "I'm not leaving this hallway." 3 hours passed, then 4, then 6. Every time the doors cracked open, I straightened. Every time a nurse walked past, I demanded the same sharp, precise question. "Status?" And every time they told me, "She's still in surgery." Jason had worn himself out pacing. Now he sat slumped in a chair, elbows on his knees, hands clasped in helpless prayer. He tried to speak to me twice. I refused both times. I wasn't here for comfort. I wasn't here for apologies. I was here for Mira. Harris walked back from the break room with a cup of bitter hospital coffee. "You need water," he pointed out gently. "I'm fine." "You haven't moved in 6 hours." "I'll move when my daughter walks again." He didn't argue. He just sat beside me silently, respectful, steady. A different kind of ally than the medics, but one I trusted. Minutes later, the OR doors slid open. A nurse stepped out, eyes sharp with urgency. "Mrs. Hartley, they're closing up now. She's going to ICU." My chest tightened, but I kept my composure. Alive? Yes. Critical, but alive. Jason broke down in tears, covering his mouth. Harris exhaled slowly, nodding as if he'd been holding that breath for hours. They rolled Mira out moments later, small, fragile, wrapped in machines and tubes. Her face was barely visible under the oxygen mask. A trauma surgeon strode beside her. "Mrs. Hartley," he addressed, walking without slowing. "Your daughter survived the main bleed. We repaired the laceration. She has 2 broken ribs, dehydration, concussion, and severe hypoxia. She's not out of danger yet." "Prognosis?" I demanded. "We'll know more in the next 12 hours. Her brain needs time. Her lungs need help. But getting her out of that mine when you did saved her life." I walked beside the gurney as they pushed her toward the ICU elevators. Jason followed several steps behind, unsure if he had permission to stand closer. When the elevator doors closed behind Mira's bed, I placed my palm on the cold metal. "She hears me," I murmured. The ICU nurse beside me nodded respectfully. "Talk to her once we settle her. Some patients respond even under sedation." "Good," I replied. "She'll hear everything." ICU was a different world, muted lights, quiet machines, the low hum of ventilators. Mira's room was small but full of life-saving equipment. Nurses moved efficiently around her, adjusting drips, checking vitals, connecting monitors. Her chest rose mechanically with each forced breath. The ventilator hissed with steady, unnatural rhythm. When they finally stepped back, I approached slowly. She looked impossibly young in that bed. I touched her hand and felt the faint warmth under her skin. "Mira," I whispered, letting my voice soften for the first time in hours. "You're here. You're safe. You can rest now. I'll stay awake for both of us." Her fingers didn't move. Her eyelids didn't stir. but her heart monitor beeped a little faster. The nurse noticed. "She heard you." I took a seat beside her bed, gripping her hand with controlled steadiness. "Good. Then she'll hear this too." Jason cleared his throat behind me. "Quinn, can I sit with her for a minute?" I didn't turn around. "You can stand, across the room." He obeyed, without a word. Harris stepped inside. "I spoke with the deputy coroner. Rachel's death is being classified correctly. Accidental collapse during felony assault. No charges will touch Mira." "Good," I replied. "She suffered enough." "And you?" he asked softly. "I don't need closure," I answered. "I need my daughter breathing on her own." The ICU nurse returned. "She's stable for now. We'll run a neurocheck soon. The next few hours are crucial." "I'm not leaving," I assured her. "You don't have to," she replied kindly. "But if you need anything, food, water, let us know." "I need her awake." The nurse smiled sadly. "One fight at a time." Hours passed. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped in endless patterns. Jason eventually sat in the chair across the room, silent, wrung out, lost. But I didn't look away from Mira even once. Around dawn, the neuro nurse stepped in. "We're going to lighten sedation. See if she responds." My heart hammered, but my breathing stayed steady. The nurse adjusted the drip, dimmed the lights, and moved close to Mira's bedside. "Mira," she said softly, "I want you to squeeze your mother's hand if you can hear me." I leaned forward, my fingers closing gently around hers. "You hear that, sweetheart? Show us you're in there." The room held its breath. Machines hummed. Silence grew thick. Then, her finger twitched. Once, then again. The nurse's eyes widened. "There it is." A small gasp escaped Jason. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. I just held her hand tighter and whispered, "Good girl. Come back to me." The nurse nodded. "She's fighting." "She always has," I answered. Mira's eyelids fluttered once. Slow, heavy, but real. I stood straighter, voice dropping to a soft command only she and I shared. "Open your eyes, Mira. You're safe. I'm right here." Another flutter. Then her eyes opened. Weak. Clouded. Confused. But open. Her gaze found mine, and a single tear slipped from the corner of her eye. "Mom," she breathed, barely audible. I leaned close. "I've got you." Her hand lifted a fraction. "Enough." "Welcome back," I murmured. The morning light spilled through the ICU blinds when Mira woke again, clearer this time, breathing slowly without the ventilator's full support. The mask still covered her mouth, but her eyes were aware, following every movement in the room. I stood beside her, one hand on her arm, grounding her. "You're safe," I murmured. "You're in the hospital. Trauma ICU. It's over." Her brow tightened. A small, strained whisper slipped under the mask. "Mom, how long?" 2 days since the mine," I replied quietly. "You survived because you didn't give up, and because we didn't stop." Her gaze drifted past me, searching, until she saw Jason standing near the doorway, hesitant, pale, unable to step closer. Mira's fingers twitched against the sheets. "Jason?" He moved in tentatively. "I'm right here. I'm so sorry. I should have told you about her. I should have protected you. I failed." I straightened, making sure Mira's eyes stayed on mine, not on his guilt. "You owe her honesty," I told him evenly. "Not panic, not apologies she can't process yet, just the truth." Jason nodded quickly. "Rachel, she's gone. The police called it an accidental collapse. She didn't make it." Mira's lips trembled behind the oxygen mask. A tear escaped down her cheek, not for Rachel, but for the weight of everything she'd endured. I leaned in, brushing the tear away with my thumb. "You're not responsible for her choices. You fought harder than anyone realizes." Her chest hitched. "I was scared. I thought I'd never see you again." My voice remained steady. I told you. I always come. A nurse stepped inside, checking Mira's vitals with quiet efficiency. She's stabilizing, the nurse reported. Considerable improvement from yesterday. We'll evaluate her for transfer to step down later today. That's good, I replied. She needs rest and normal light. Mira's tired eyes found the nurse. Can I go home soon? Not yet, the nurse answered gently. But you're heading in the right direction. Jason moved closer to Mira's bedside, but he didn't touch her. He waited for permission, a small sign he understood boundaries now. Quinn, he whispered, I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to fix this. I want to take responsibility. I faced him fully. Then start by being consistent. Mira doesn't need promises. She needs stability. She needs a partner who pays attention. Can you do that? Yes, he breathed. I can. I will. Mira watched him quietly. She didn't reach for his hand. She didn't turn away either. A fragile middle ground, earned, not given. The ICU doors slid open again. Detective Harris stepped in, hat tucked under his arm, uniform still dusted with the residue of long nights. Morning, he greeted. Just came to update you. Paperwork is finalized. Rachel's case is officially closed. No loose ends. Mira stiffened faintly. I rested my hand over hers. You're safe. Nothing from that woman follows you anymore. Harris nodded respectfully at Mira. You were incredibly strong. And your mother? She didn't give us a single second to slow down. A faint smile tugged the corner of Mira's mouth. That sounds right. Harris turned to leave, but not before addressing me quietly. You kept us focused. You led half of it. Don't downplay that. I didn't lead, I corrected. I followed the signs and my daughter's will to live. He gave a small nod and slipped out. After he left, the room grew calm. The machines beeped at a gentle, steady pace. Mira drifted between wakefulness and light sleep. Every time she stirred, she reached for my hand. Hours later, the doctor approved her transfer to a private recovery room. When nurses rolled her out of ICU, I walked beside her, not letting go. When we reached the new room, Mira whispered, I want to go home. You will, I assured her, adjusting the blanket around her shoulders. Soon. Jason hovered near the doorway. The house is... I cleaned it. Daniel stopped by and helped. He wanted to check on you. Mentioning Daniel pulled a warmth into the room that Mira responded to. He saved me, she whispered. No, I corrected softly. He warned me. Saving you was a group effort. His courage, the police's work, your strength, and a mother who doesn't take her eyes off her daughter. Mira sighed, letting her head sink into the pillow. I want Christmas lights. When we go home. You'll have them, I promised. Later that afternoon, Daniel Brooks himself arrived, hair combed neatly, jacket freshly pressed, a humble, kind man with eyes that carried genuine relief. He stepped inside, holding a small paper bag. Just brought some homemade soup, my grandmother's recipe. Thought it might help. Mira smiled weakly beneath her oxygen mask. Thank you. For everything. His voice tightened. I only did what any decent person would. But I'm glad you're safe. You did more than that, I replied. You paid attention when others didn't. That's rare. He nodded shyly and excused himself, promising to return when Mira was stronger. As dusk settled, Mira drifted into another gentle sleep. The hospital window glowed with distant streetlights, soft, warm, a reminder that life moved forward. Jason stood beside the door, hesitant. Should I go home? I studied him for several seconds. Stay if you're here to support her. Leave if you're here to crumble. His posture straightened. I'll stay. Then sit, I instructed quietly. And don't make her manage your guilt. He sank into a chair, silent. I turned back to Mira, brushing a loose strand of hair from her forehead. Rest, sweetheart. We're right here. As the evening lights dimmed and the room settled into quiet, Mira's fingers curled lightly around mine, weak but full of life. A slow breath left her lips. "Mom, we're still here." I squeezed her hand. "Yes," I answered softly. "We are." And if this story reached you, if it made you hold your breath or reminded you of the strength inside every parent, I'm grateful you stayed with me to the end. Thank you for spending your time here with Grandma Life Stories. Your support keeps these stories alive, and it means more than I can say. If you'd like to hear more stories of family, courage, and quiet justice, feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, or tell me where you're watching from. I always love reading your messages. Take care of yourself tonight, and I hope to see you again in the next video.